It was supposed to be an ordinary day, just another sunny afternoon on the quiet suburban street. The kind of day where the sun's rays bounced off the freshly paved road and the hum of distant lawnmowers blended with the chirping of birds. But today, something was different. Today, the usual peaceful hum was replaced by the sharp sound of raised voices and tense body language. In the middle of the street, two figures stood face to face, their bodies rigid with frustration. The man, tall and broad-shouldered, wore a bright orange safety vest and a yellow hard hat that caught the sunlight like a beacon. His face was flushed, eyes blazing with anger. Opposite him, a woman with similar attire, the same orange vest and yellow helmet, stood with her arms crossed, her face equally fierce. Their voices rose and fell in a heated exchange, words sharp and cutting like knives. It was clear they weren't just talking. They were arguing over something serious, something that mattered to both of them. Behind them, slightly to the right, and just out of the main focus, a man with short brown hair watched the scene unfold. He was dressed casually in a white V-neck t-shirt and blue jeans, and he looked uncomfortable, standing with his arms slightly raised in a defensive stance. His eyes darted between the two in front, trying to understand what was going on but feeling the weight of the tension pressing down on him. The street was quiet except for the voices. In the background, a yellow asphalt roller sat parked, silent but looming, as if witnessing the confrontation. Beyond it, a house with a well-kept lawn and a white picket fence added a touch of normalcy. But today, it seemed worlds away from the chaos in the street. What was this argument about? Why had it suddenly erupted? And most importantly, what secrets did this clash hide? The scene was frozen in time, but beneath the surface something was stirring, something that would soon change everything. Suddenly the woman's voice cut through the air, sharper than before. "I told you, we're not changing the rules just because you don't like it." The man in the vest clenched his fists. "You don't understand the first thing about what's best for this neighborhood. I've seen what happens when we ignore the rules. Things fall apart." The third man took a small step forward, voice trembling as he tried to intervene. "Hey, maybe we should all just calm down and talk this out." But before he could finish, the woman's eyes flashed with determination. "No, this isn't over until everyone knows the truth, and I won't back down." The tension hung thick in the air like a storm about to break. The two in the vests stared each other down, their anger simmering just beneath the surface. The man with the brown hair looked on, feeling a strange mix of fear and curiosity. What was this fight really about, and what secrets were about to be uncovered? As the sun shone brightly overhead, casting long shadows on the pavement, the scene was set for something much bigger than a simple disagreement. A secret long buried was about to surface, and nothing would be the same again. The woman's voice echoed sharply in the stillness, her words laced with a fierce determination that made the others instinctively take a step back. "You think you can just come in here and tell us what to do? I've had enough of the lies and the secrets. It's time everyone knew the truth." Her eyes darted around, daring anyone to challenge her, her voice rising in conviction. "I've uncovered something that changes everything, and I won't be silenced anymore." The man in the vest looked taken aback, his face twisting with a mixture of anger and confusion. "What are you talking about? What truth?" "You're just stirring up trouble," he snapped, trying to regain control, his hands clenched at his sides, the bright orange of his vest almost glowing in the sunlight, a stark symbol of authority. "You're making accusations without proof. We're just trying to keep everything peaceful here." Meanwhile, the man with the brown hair stepped forward, his brow furrowed in concern. "Listen, both of you," he said softly but firmly. "Whatever it is, we need to handle this calmly. Shouting and fighting like this won't solve anything." His gaze flickered between the two, trying to gauge their intentions, sensing that beneath their anger lay something much deeper. The woman took a deep breath, her chest rising and falling as she steadied herself. "It's about the HOA," she finally declared, voice firm and unwavering. "I've found documents, emails, and photos. They've been hiding something from us, something huge, and I've decided I'm not going to let them get away with it anymore." The man in the vest scoffed. "The HOA? That's just a bunch of rules and regulations. You're overreacting, there's no conspiracy." His eyes narrowed as he stepped closer, trying to dismiss her claims. But there was something in her expression that made him hesitate for a moment, a spark of conviction that made him wonder if she knew something he didn't. The man with the brown hair looked genuinely worried now. "Are you telling us that the HOA has been lying to everyone? That they've been hiding something?" His voice trembled slightly, the weight of her words sinking in. "If that's true, then we have a serious problem. We need to see whatever evidence you've got." The woman nodded, pulling out a small folder from her bag. "I've kept everything safe. I was afraid I'd be dismissed or ignored, but I couldn't stay silent anymore. This goes beyond petty disputes. It's about trust, honesty, and our community's future. They've been manipulating us for years." A tense pause followed as everyone digested the gravity of her revelation. The bright sunlight seemed to grow hotter, the shadows cast by the nearby trees stretching long and dark across the pavement. The yellow asphalt roller in the background seemed almost symbolic, an engine of change, or perhaps a reminder of the machinery that had been quietly working behind the scenes. Suddenly, the man in the vest's expression hardened. "If what you're saying is true, then we need to see those documents. We need proof. Until then, I suggest we all stay calm and think this through. No one wants chaos, but we can't ignore this either." The woman's lips pressed into a thin line, but her eyes shone with resolve. "I've already shown you enough to prove I'm serious, but I won't be silenced anymore. The truth is out there, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows it. This isn't just about me or you. It's about all of us." As the sunlight glinted off the pavement and the distant hum of the neighborhood settled into a tense silence, the scene was set for a confrontation, far bigger than a simple argument. Secrets that had been buried deep beneath the surface were about to surface, and nothing would be the same again. The quiet suburb, with its manicured lawns and white picket fences, was on the brink of upheaval, and everyone knew it. But what would happen next? Who could be trusted? And what dark truths lay hidden behind the shiny facade of their community? The answers were just beginning to unfold, and the story was far from over. The woman clutched the folder tightly to her chest, her knuckles whitening with the force of her grip. Her eyes, burning with a mixture of frustration and determination, flicked between the two men in front of her. She knew that revealing what she had uncovered would change everything. The quiet neighborhood she once thought of as safe now felt like a powder keg, ready to ignite at any moment. The trust she had once placed in her community was crumbling, replaced by suspicion and doubt. The man in the vest hesitated for a moment, as if weighing the consequences of what he was about to say. His jaw clenched, and he looked away, taking a deep breath. "All right," he finally said, voice tight with a mix of annoyance and reluctant curiosity. "Show us what you've got, but be warned. If this is some kind of trick, there will be consequences." The woman nodded sharply, pulling out her phone and tapping rapidly. "I've already got the evidence loaded. It's all here. Emails, photos, reports." Her voice trembled slightly, but her resolve remained firm. "This isn't just about some petty dispute. It's about transparency, honesty, and accountability. I've been digging for months, and I've uncovered a pattern, something that goes way beyond local rules and regulations." The other man, the one with short brown hair, stepped closer, his face pale but eyes locked onto her. "Show us, please. We need to see the proof. If they've been hiding something, then we're in deeper trouble than I thought." His voice was earnest, tinged with fear and hope that this was the start of something right, even if it meant upheaval. She hesitated for a heartbeat, then slowly pulled out her phone, swiping to a folder labeled Evidence. The screen flickered in the bright sunlight, revealing snippets of emails with redacted sections, scanned documents with highlighted passages, and blurred photos that hinted at secret meetings and shady dealings. She handed the phone to the man in the vest first, then to the brown-haired man, watching their reactions closely. The man in the vest scrolled through the images, his brow furrowing deeper with each new piece of information. This could be serious," he muttered, voice subdued. "If these aren't fake, then our community has been kept in the dark for years. I never suspected anything like this." The woman's voice cracked slightly. "It's real. I've verified everything. The emails are from their official accounts. The documents are authentic. I've cross-checked everything. They've been manipulating us, covering up their mistakes, hiding illegal activities, and even threatening anyone who dared to speak up." The third man, still holding the phone, looked haunted as he absorbed the details. "So what now? Do we blow the lid off? Do we confront them? Or do we just walk away and pretend none of this exists?" The woman's eyes flashed with fierce resolve. "We do what's right. We expose the truth. People have a right to know what's been going on behind their backs. We can't let them continue to deceive us. Our families, our homes, our lives. I've had enough of living in a shadow of lies." A heavy silence fell over the scene as the weight of her words sank in. The sun blazed overhead, casting long shadows across the pavement, as if the very ground beneath them was holding its breath. The neighborhood, seemingly so peaceful, now felt like it was teetering on the edge of chaos. Suddenly, the man in the vest straightened up, his face set with a new determination. "All right," he said firmly. "We need to figure out the next step. If this is true, then we have a lot of work ahead of us. We need allies, witnesses, someone who can help us bring this to light safely." The woman nodded again, her expression fierce. "I've already reached out to a few people. Some are afraid, some are ready to fight, but we can't do this alone. We need to be smart, careful. We can't let them silence us or turn us against each other." As they stood there, the realization dawned that their quiet neighborhood was no longer just a peaceful street, but the battleground of a battle for truth. Secrets long buried threatened to explode, and the lives of everyone involved were about to change forever. The road ahead was uncertain, filled with danger and deception, but one thing was clear. The fight for justice had begun, and they wouldn't back down. The air grew thick with tension as the woman's words echoed in the quiet aftermath of their revelations. The small group stood in hesitant silence, each person lost in their own thoughts, grappling with the enormity of what had just been uncovered. The sun continued its relentless march across the sky, casting sharp shadows on the cracked pavement and illuminating the determined set of her jaw. She knew the fight was only just beginning, but for now she allowed herself a moment to breathe, to steel herself for what lay ahead. The man in the vest, whose brow was still furrowed in thought, finally broke the silence. His voice was steady, but edged with resolve. "We can't ignore this anymore. If what you're saying is true, then we're all in danger. Our homes, our families, our future. We need to act, and we need to act fast." He paused, glancing at the others, gauging their reactions. "First, we gather more evidence. We need concrete proof, enough to convince everyone. Then, we rally others who see the truth and are willing to stand with us." The woman nodded, feeling a flicker of hope ignite within her. "I've already started reaching out. There are a few who might listen. People who have felt something wasn't right but didn't have the proof to speak out. We need to be careful, though. If they find out we're onto them, they could retaliate, and I don't want anyone hurt because of this." The brown-haired man rubbed his hands together nervously. "And what about the authorities? Do we involve the police, or is this something we handle ourselves? I worry that exposing everything might cause more chaos than we're ready for." His voice quivered slightly, betraying his apprehension, but he looked earnestly at her, seeking guidance. She took a deep breath, her eyes scanning the small circle of faces before her. "We need to be strategic. I think we can't just rely on the police. They might be part of the cover-up, or at least hesitant to get involved. We need to find allies outside the system. Journalists, community leaders, anyone who values truth and justice. But we also have to protect ourselves. They've shown they'll go to great lengths to hide their secrets." A gust of wind swept through, rustling the leaves on the nearby trees and carrying with it the faint scent of impending change. The neighborhood around them, with its neatly trimmed lawns and familiar facades, suddenly felt less like a safe haven and more like a battleground. Every crack in the pavement, every shadow cast by the tall houses seemed to whisper of secrets lurking beneath the surface, secrets that were finally coming to light. The woman's voice softened, but remained firm. We start small, gather enough evidence, and then decide our next move. We can't rush into anything reckless. We need to be united and cautious. If we do this right, we can expose the truth without putting ourselves in too much danger. But I won't stop until everyone knows what's been happening behind their backs." As she finished speaking, a sense of resolve settled over the group. They understood that their lives were about to change forever. The peaceful, idyllic neighborhood they had taken for granted was on the brink of upheaval, and the stakes had never been higher. With the evidence now in their hands and conviction fueling their hearts, they prepared to face whatever consequences awaited. The fight for transparency, for justice, was only beginning, and together, they vowed not to let the darkness hide behind the veneer of calm any longer.